The Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has a total of 12 different FNAF games that don't even include the spin-off games, dozens of books, and even movies in the works. The series that started as a simple horror indie game developed into a cultural phenomenon, with FNAF being a staple in the horror genre and community. With new games being released, it has all created one single deep and complicated storyline with confusing lore for fans to attempt to solve. But what if it all ended? What if the story that we all grew to love and appreciate had finally come to an end? Every character, animatronic, and storyline had finally been put to rest. In my last video, I did explore a possible reboot and what my rebooted franchise look like, and a new story using new mascot animatronics, new characters, and all new tragedies. If you haven't seen that video, check it out here, as in this video I'm finally going to explore a possible sequel to the first game that will not only expand the lore and mysteries, but will also serve as a satisfying reboot to the second FNAF game we all love and remember. But like my last video, of course I have to give full credit to the Unworthy Truth who inspired this reboot video. I'm sure many of you have seen his FNAF 1 reboot video, which was amazing and was a great remake to the franchise. So I also wanted to give my take, as reboots can really be anything, as it's a reset from the story itself. He even inspired me to create custom animations for this reboot video to really encapsulate my vision, so throughout the course of this video, enjoy these animations, alongside custom maps, character designs, and other content, as there's a lot to go over. I'm going to cover where the second game would take place, the characters and mascots, gameplay, the story, the lore, and how it could set up a possible third project if needed. So make sure to like and subscribe, and let's uncover the mysteries of my FNAF 2 reboot, Five Nights at Freddy's Singing Land. With the first game, my main goal was to introduce a completely new story or timeline, diverging from the established lore of previous games like rebooted games often do. I didn't just want to retell what we already knew. I wanted it to revolve around something that had already been established in the main story, but something that was never explored. Something that has actually been teased since the very first Help Wanted game, but we never actually seen it played out, Fall Fest. Sure, we've seen recreations of it, and we even got a poster for this carnival, Fall Fest 1970. It also might have some role in FNAF's latest project, Secret of the Mimic, but it still won't be the main focus. So with the first game in my reboot, I would have it take place in this carnival in Fall Fest. Instead of just having it take place in a pizzeria that is somehow connected to Fazbear's, I wanted it to take place somewhere new. For a quick overview of that game and how it leads into this sequel, this game will take place a long enough time from the older games to where every tragedy and incident is now myth and almost forgotten. So none of the older characters or animatronics would show up or even be mentioned. It takes place in Fall Fest, a carnival created for the fans by the fans, just like Fast Fest in the FNAF 2 movie. A new company named Golden Hour Carnival Co. created mascot animatronics of each of Fazbear's most popular and memorable characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Funtime Freddy, and Fredbear. There are also two animatronics in the carnival as well, the puppet and balloon boy. You play as a security guard named Mike, who not only works as a security guard but also as a technician. Each night focuses on a different animatronic until the last one, where every single one is a threat. There are also reports of missing children around the area, but the company wants you to ignore them. One of the main focuses of my reboot is Freddy, who has been missing all week, until you find him dragging a body into the auditorium. There you find 6 versions of mascot Fredbear, all with a body inside, as only the hair is popping out. For a 6th bonus night you return, only to be taunted and chased by multiple Fredbear suits. Avoiding them will only lead you to face Fredbear himself, where you're almost killed before everyone disappears. You then see all the Fredbears from the night before packed in a truck before driving off. And where was this truck driving off to? Well, to a new location by the same company, Fredbear's Singing Land, where the sequel would take place. That's right, in my reboot we're finally getting some sort of Fredbear's Family Diner game. Like Fall Fest, this is inspired by something that actually already existed in the main timeline, just on a much smaller scale, Fredbear's Singing Show. It's assumed this attraction was around before the very first pizzeria was even opened, and might have even followed young Willie Mafton's career. It was a much smaller scale event with Freddy the Singing Bear, so this would be Golden Hour Carnival Co. attempting to expand this concept on a much larger scale. In my head I imagine it being something pretty different from Fall Fest. It wouldn't just be bigger, but something much more expansive. There would be dozens of rides or attractions, theaters playing promotional videos, restaurants featuring their own animatronics, tours and museums all over the park. This is the same company and group of people I discussed in the last video attempting to make their biggest attraction yet, which is also hinting to the fact that other carnivals or attractions existed before Singing Land and even before Fall Fest, but I'll talk about this later in the video. Like I mentioned, Fredbear is the main focus of Singing Land, with there even being 6 versions of the same character as we saw in the Fall Fest ending. But the main and center mascot would be the yellow bear with a black hat and bow tie. It's worth mentioning how Spring Bonnie won't actually have that big of a role here. In fact, he would only be present through hallucinations, which is something important I'll come back to soon. Yes, he's a part of Fredbear's family diner, and I did want to include him here, but for timeline purposes, he'll instead be used somewhere else. Besides the mascot Fredbears, I also wanted to include two other animatronics, Funtime Foxy and El Chip. Funtime Foxy gives tours in all of the museums, while Old Chip owns a chain of restaurants within the park, acting as not only the server but also as a manager to all locations. When looking at all of the attractions and versions of Fredbear, they include a brown with black hat and bow tie Freddy alongside his bakery, a yellow bear with a brown hat and bow tie with his train ride, an attraction that will take guests all around the park at different destinations. There's a black Fredbear with a red hat and bow tie whose attraction is a giant carousel. There's a black Fredbear with a yellow hat and bow tie with his chain of roller coasters spanning across the park. A yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie alongside his theaters playing different content from Golden Hour Carnival Co. Videos showing off their different attractions and different mascot animatronics. And finally, the main and center Fredbear, a yellow bear with a black hat and bow tie and his main street. A street filled with stands, merchandise stores, and more. It's the center of the park that connects all attractions and buildings. Fredbear would be walking around the park and would be the most popular. He's the face of Singing Land. Now this wouldn't be a FNAF 2 reboot without the Withered animatronics, where here they would be known as the Withered mascots and will have some small role. They're mainly in one area, which is something I'll discuss later, and aren't a part of any attractions. They're here to be fixed. But the main focus will be on the Fredbear mascots and the kids stuffed inside of them. Based on the first game, it's made clear that 6 kids possess the Fredbears, but they still act normal and as animatronics during the daytime. But at night they become aggressive for a reason, as that's when they were killed. For the human characters, Phone Guy will return with all new voice lines. And there will also be an unnamed character that we don't actually see or hear from, but instead they will serve the purpose of giving us clarity on events from the timeline. Similar to Tape Girl from Help Wanted, but I'll get into those details later in the video. As for the protagonist and who we will play as, of course it had to be Jeremy. Jeremy is a security guard once again, but not a technician like Fall Fest. Instead, he'll be in charge of making sure every mascot is where they're supposed to be, and will have a checklist type of mechanics similar to FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, which leads me to the gameplay and to the specifics of each night. The game starts with a newspaper just like FNAF 2. Here we learn about the position Jeremy is applying to and what Fredbear Singing Land is. We learn that it's Golden Hour Carnival Co.'s biggest attraction, yet centered around a classic character. We also learned that Fall Fest from the first game had been shut down due to the 6 children that had gone missing and had never been found. The newspaper fades away as you walk to the front entrance. Welcome to Fredbear's Singing Land. Starting with night 1, walking in, you immediately notice how large the park really is and how centered around Fredbear it is. In the corner of your eye, you even spot Fredbear himself walking in the distance and into the darkness, but you remember that should be normal. Walking further into the park, the PA system goes off, and like Fall Fest, it's Phone Guy welcoming you to the park. It's the same exact person and voice as the one from the last attraction, but he sounds different, almost less present and less like himself. He welcomes you to Fredbear's Singing Land, Golden Hour's newest attraction that he has much higher hopes for. He assures you nothing will go wrong and that everything you've heard about previous locations are either lies by parents to gain attention or were taken out of context. He introduces you to the clipboard, the only thing you need to complete the night. There is a page with 6 simple boxes. Find each Fredbear mascot and check the box to confirm everything is in order. Miss a box and you risk being terminated. And he even mentions an old employee who didn't follow the directions and had to pay the price. He wishes you good luck and ends the call. So because you already saw Fredbear, you check off the first box and begin your way to Fredbear's bakery. There you find a large bakery with Fredbear supposedly in the back. On your way there you find nothing, only a trail of footsteps leading outside. Following them, you realize something is actually walking behind you, but turning around you'll find nothing. You continue walking while also watching your back, as if you let the noise get too close to you, you'll be jump scared by the brown Fredbear. Steering off path will also cause you to be jump scared. Occasionally you can also find Fredbear in the shadows before running off. Reaching the end of the footprints will just lead you right back to the bakery, which makes you realize the loop of footprints was just one giant trick by Fredbear. So returning to the back room, you find Fredbear right where he's supposed to be, checking off another box. It's almost as if he played some sort of game with you, but you brush it off and continue with the checklist. The rest of the night consists of finding the 4 remaining Fredbears and ensuring they're where they're supposed to be. Checking off the last Fredbear, you walk to the front gates as you catch Fredbear walking around the park once more. Now night 1 is supposed to be the easiest that familiarizes the player with the park. By going to each attraction and by walking around the park, the player begins to experience the Singing Land. It's also a way of introducing an easy mechanic and introducing only one Fredbear as a threat as of now. So let's continue the rundown with night 2. Like the last night, Phone Guy has a message for you, where he welcomes you back to the park and even congratulates you for doing a job well done. He tells you that Singing Land has been their biggest hit yet, and plans for expansion haven't stopped, with plans for more parks being in the works. He wishes you luck, and you start the checklist every night by checking off the main Fredbear, as you just assume he's walking somewhere. Starting with the bakery, you have to finish the same mechanic or game Fredbear has set up for you. But each night it would get harder, with him randomly appearing in front of you causing you to turn around, his footsteps becoming less apparent, or longer routes to the bakery. This would be the same for every Fredbear, where every level or mechanic needs to be completed in order to end the night and move on, meaning by night 5 you will have to complete 5 different levels to finish the game. So on night 2, the Fredbear introduced is the yellow bear with a brown hat and bow tie in his train ride. Here Fredbear is the conductor and is traveling the park, so you have to beat him on a race to his next destination to complete the task. Track him on your map as you take shortcuts and do anything you can to beat him there. If not, Fredbear will randomly appear in front of you and will jump scare you for losing. And to make things even harder, Funtime Foxy will also be a threat. Foxy isn't on the list and wasn't something you were made aware of being a possible threat. She acts like Foxy from Fall Fest. She's fast, aggressive, and jumps at you. It's not made clear why she's not in her museums or why she's chasing you, as all you need to worry about is escaping. Beating Fredbear to 2 destinations will end his level and he'll be stationed near the Ferris wheel, where you can check him off the list. You then check off the last 3 mascots before heading back to the front entrance, while also still avoiding Funtime Foxy. Night 2 will not only introduce another level, but it will also introduce a consistent threat, Funtime Foxy, who stays a threat after Night 2 and roams the park freely. But there isn't much to say about it, as the story and lore really start with Night 3. Walking up to the entrance, Phone Guy has yet another message, this time sounding more concerned. He warns you that the mascots have been acting aggressive towards employees once the park closes. People have reported being thrown, being followed, and even seeing things that aren't really there. He mentions how he's scared another quote-unquote incident will happen, a callback to the missing children incident from Fall Fest. He says they were never found, but that it's impossible for that to happen again. He wishes you luck as you're on your way to the bakery. Again, you complete the same 2 levels as before, with both being harder and taking a bit longer. For example, the train ride level could have 3 destinations instead of 2, and Funtime Foxy will also act more aggressive. But after completing those 2, you head over to the Black Fredbear with a red hat and bow ties attraction, the Giant Carousel. There, you simply have to play a game of hide and seek with Fredbear. Using a flashlight, shine a light on Fredbear hiding behind the different rides, lose him in this giant area, and of course you'll be jump scared. This is very similar to the carousel minigame from Help Wanted 2, but instead of shining the light on Moon, it's Fredbear. So after shining your light on him enough times, the lights turn off and back on, revealing he's been on his stand in normal location, allowing you to check off another Fredbear. But before you can leave, you hear the alarm system going off around the park, with a robotic voice urging you to check parts and service. Something has snuck in. Running there, you find it's a 3-story building including the basement. Inside you find the withered mascots from Fall Fest, so you have to avoid them while trying to find what snuck in. So avoid Chica creeping up behind you, Foxy jumping at you from corners, Bonnie destroying everything in his path to reach you, and Freddy using the shadows to his advantage to lure you to him. You have to follow the sound of what appears to be laughter. You'll hear from each floor and in different areas until you find what actually snuck in. So eventually you find a small Balloon Boy toy wind-up toy is what snuck in. Very similar to the small Balloon Boy toy from the FNAF movie. You collect it and escape the parts and service area, which also allows you to exit the park ending Night 3. With Night 3, I really wanted to make it clear that the Fredbears are possessed by children. These levels you have to face are children's games. At the end of the day, children were stuffed into these mascot animatronics, and I even wanted to take some inspiration from the first FNAF movie and from the fort scene. Fans have mixed feelings on this moment, but I personally thought it worked as I showed these killer animatronics are just kids. So here playing games of hide and seek and racing Fredbear are all to show that they were just kids. When Freddy found them sneaking in and stuffed them into suits, they were just innocent children caught in the crossfire. And this is further explained with the withered mascots. With the first game we learned that they were malfunctioning as someone rewired their programming intentionally, and here they were still acting aggressive and not like themselves. So these children being murdered was a result of this person changing the animatronics for some unknown reason, and with Singing Land we'll finally learn why. But that will be covered in the lore section of the video, so now let's look at Night 4. Gameplay wise, to make things harder and less predictable, instead of having a set schedule where you have to check one Fredbear first and then another in a specific order, starting on Night 4 everything is randomized. At the start you could first be tasked with the carousel level or the train ride instead of directly going to Fredbear's bakery. Or the alarms could sound off at the start of each night, forcing you to encounter the wizards and retrieve the Balloon Boy toy. But the next level introduced revolves around the black Fredbear with the yellow hat and bow tie and his roller coasters. After completing all tasks in a randomized orders, you'll have to venture to Fredbear's roller coaster to check him off the list. There you enter a 2-story building and go through a back entrance where one of the roller coasters actually begins. You find an office with 2 hallways to the side of it. Fredbear will appear on either side, and the only way to stop him is by flashing your light on him before he gets too close to the doors. Of course, this is almost perfectly mirroring FNAF 4 gameplay, where Nightmare Fredbear had a major role, and in my reboot he's present through a mascot animatronic. So avoid him reaching your office by listening to his footsteps and laughter, and also avoid being tricked. Occasionally go into the laughter on any side. Instead of finding Nightmare Fredbear, you'll find a plushie of Fredbear on the ground, meaning you've been tricked and he's getting closer to you on the other side. Fail to flash your light on him on time and you'll be jump scared. But by keeping him in the hallways and away from you, you'll finish the level in this section. Throughout this section, there's also a chance you'll be met with hallucinations of Fredbear surrounding you. You can't move and you can only stare at the mascots around you. But exiting Fredbear's roller coasters and checking him off the list, your last objective is to face El Chip, the final animatronic on the roster. Here I wanted to have a similar mechanic to El Chip from Ultimate Custom Night and to the staff bots from FNAF Security Breach. In both situations, something randomly appears on your screen, causing the rest of the game to become more difficult. So here El Chip would randomly grab you while loud music plays in the background as he advertises his restaurants. Press a button on your lower screen labeled Speed Up Ad and El Chip will talk faster, eventually letting you go and disappearing. The loud music has a chance of alerting Funtime Foxy, and El Chip appearing also has a chance of forcing you to replay one of the levels. So skipping El Chip's dialogue, you then head to the entrance and end Night 4. With Night 4, I again wanted to give references to the MCI through hallucinations, and again emphasizing that these are children games, as you are being tricked by one of the Fredbears and by a plushie. It's also a good way of introducing yet another mechanic, one that can be fun, annoying, and even frustrating, El Chip grabbing you randomly. By also having levels randomized, it makes nights that much harder and less predictable. There will also be even more references to the MCI in the final night, which will also be important to the story. So finally, let's look at Night 5. Starting with Phone Guy, he has a new message sounding panicked and scared. He tells you that someone snuck in overnight, causing all animatronics to act extremely aggressive and even murderous. 2 employees are in the hospital and he fears they won't recover. He advises you to turn around and to never come back or to even come close to the mascots. You hear a jump scare in the background before the call ends. You attempt to go back, but the gates close, locking you inside, which makes you realize the only way out is to complete each task and check off each Fredbear. You have to do so in a random order, but at the same time the Fredbears that aren't checked off are roaming freely around the park. So complete the bakery level while avoiding the Fredbears and beat one of them to your race while still avoiding them. Funtime Fox and El Chip are of course a threat alongside the withered mascots who are also there. It's the hardest night yet while also introducing a final level and mechanic. Here you're playing hide and seek once more, but this time Fredbear's trying to find you. This level takes place at Fredbear's Theater, featuring the yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie. Hide behind the movie projector, behind the concession stands, behind the seats, but do everything in your power to avoid Fredbear. There's also a chance that a movie will start playing and you'll have no other choice but to watch it. After successfully avoiding him, he'll return to the projector room and you can finally check off the last Fredbear. Running out of the theater into the exit, you'll face even stronger hallucinations of the missing children incident. You'll see children's faces, the Fredbears, and the silhouette of a person in the distance. Reaching the exit, you'll be stopped by all Fredbears surrounding you and by Foxy jumping in front of you. All chaos stops and the park is at a complete standstill. Funtime Foxy looks at you, then at the Fredbears, and then back at you, before jumping at you and biting at your head, ending Night 5. You are then met with the first ending, a paycheck to Jeremy for $100.87. The memo reads, "For the treatment," and the check is from Golden Hour Carnival Co. The screen fades to black, revealing all Fredbears staring at the screen, before the light from all of their eyes fade away, ending Five Nights at Freddy's Singing Land. Now, completing Night 5 is the first of 2 endings and shows the end of Jeremy's career. It's assumed that FNAF 2 is where the bite of 87 occurs with Foxy and with Jeremy Fitzgerald. So, keeping the same incident here, it's between Jeremy and Funtime Foxy, which is why in the later nights he's replaced, and the same would happen with my reboot, which I'll go over soon. This night is also the perfect way to showcase the possessed Fredbears and their story. The hallucinations emphasize what happened to them and that someone sneaking in is why they're acting this way. It's also revealed that Jeremy survived the bite and that Golden Hour at least tried to pay for his treatments. So now, looking at night 6, like Fall Fest, you first have to unlock it. You unlock it by completing the previous nights without any deaths, meaning if you're on night 5 and you suddenly die to Withered Bonnie, you have to restart from the very beginning and have to try again. So after doing so, night 6 is open to the player and it's the hardest one yet. Walking to the front gates, the park is on complete lockdown, forcing you to sneak in from the side where there's a small wedge between the fence. Immediately you face hallucinations and are surrounded by the Fredbears. You even face jump scares but aren't killed. You don't have a checklist as your only objective is to find the center Fredbear. He appears on your map at different locations and you have to follow him. Not only are all Fredbears loose with no levels besides them just chasing you, but Funtime Foxy, Old Chip, and all of the withered mascots are all loose attempting to chase you. At the same time, you're met with random text flashing on your screen, like you failed, you ran away, you left us, and it's your fault. But that means a total of 11 threats are attempting to kill you, so you run around the park, hide in different areas, distract them in different ways, all to finally find Fredbear at the center of the park. Walking towards him, all lights will shut off and all threats will stop chasing you. Text appears at the bottom of your screen as he begins to talk to you. Why did you run? Do you remember who we are? He said you would keep us safe. That was your job. You came back for redemption, to ease your mind? Well, don't. It's too late. He won't let us rest, so neither should you. You are then met with a jump scare similar to the one from Fall Fest before closing your eyes. You open them only to find yourself outside of the park and by your car. Running inside, you try to breathe and remember what happened, before looking behind you to find Fredbear. Now on night 6, you of course play as Mike from Fall Fest, traveling to the park to attempt to save the children. But like all the Fredbears reminds him, he is too late. He had already failed and all the mascots can't rest. They are vengeful spirits as a result of his absence. So they won't let Mike rest either, which is why the ending showed the Fredbears now following him and now haunting him. This could be literally or all in his head, but he's now attached to these spirits. The center Fredbear also mentions someone by he, who is the same person who reprogrammed all the Fall Fest animatronics. And like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, we're finally going to learn more about this character through Amara. Now a game mechanic that I haven't mentioned until now and one that can be used to explore the lore is Jeremy's room. Between each night you will be taken to Jeremy's room, an old apartment with a table and monitors in front of you. Each night you have the option of skipping this segment and going right into the next night, but you can always stay as long as you want while looking around his room. So around the park and throughout each night you can find USB sticks that can be used to play a hidden video and message in Jeremy's room. There are a total of 7 different USB sticks you can find and they will appear right next to the computer. With the first couple of nights and with the USBs you find, plugging them into the computer, a video will play with a message from Amara. We'll learn more about Golden Hour Carnival Co., like how many employees they have, how long it took to construct Singing Land, we'll even get different names but we still won't be sure who they are. With later nights we'll learn more about Fall Fest, like how Carnival Co. was sued by all of the parents of the missing children, but no one was held liable or was convicted. We then finally learn of a mysterious person I've been mentioning all video. Amara mentions how the head engineer for Golden Hour overseeing all mascots and their functionality had concerns and worries about safety features or protocols for Fall Fest. Of course, the CEOs ignore him and threaten him with termination if he attempts to go public with this information or even to the authorities. Amar mentions how he confided in her with this decision and what after happened to quote-unquote with both his kids, he had no one else to go to. But before he could even say anything, he was terminated either way and she never heard from him again. After the missing children incident, the mascots were of course examined where they found their programming was tampered with, which is why they were even sent to Singing Land to be repaired. Amara had suspicions that he was responsible for all of this, but at the same time she doubted that he would ever do anything like that. With the last USB stick, we learn that Amara is also being terminated for unknown reasons as she was asking too many questions about the Fredbears. She warns whoever finds these messages to stay away from Singing Land and from Golden Hour Carnival Co., as you never know what they're capable of. Like Tape Girl from Help Wanted, Amara and her messages will be one of the many ways we'll learn about the lore and about this mysterious person. Like many of the earlier FNAF games, the lore was something that needed to be uncovered. So find these USB sticks throughout the park and uncover the mysteries of this new story. Another thing I wanted to explore with Jeremy's room and with the monitors are minigames. Instead of having them be playable somewhere in the park like I had in Fall Fest, it would have a similar mechanic to finding the USB sticks. So go around Singing Land and look for plushies of the core 5 main animatronics. After collecting them, they will then appear in Jeremy's apartment, where you can click on them, which will then unlock one of 5 minigames. These minigames would actually mirror the different levels you face throughout the game, and in all of the minigames you'd play as one of the children from the Missing Children incident. Like many of the classic minigames from the franchise, going into a secret path or waiting long enough for something else to happen, you'll be met with something worth paying attention to. For example, playing a game of hide and seek with Freddy is similar to a classic game of whack-a-mole. Freddy will appear in front of you and behind structures, so you have to click him to be awarded a point. Find him as many times as you can in under a minute to complete the minigame, but if you decide not to do anything and wait the entire minute without clicking on Freddy, the minigame will glitch and your perspective will change. You find yourself inside one of the Fredbear mascots. You look left, then right, both sides finding another suit. You see someone walking in the distance before shutting a door and disappearing. Your breathing becomes rapid and sharp and you scream, cutting off the minigame. With another minigame, feeding Chica at her bakery, create a combination of food to keep her happy, but mess up her order and you have a chance of losing. But mixing the ingredients in a way that aren't on the directions and in a way you would only find from a recipe inside of the bakery inside the actual park, the minigame will glitch and you'll find yourself inside of yet another Fredbear costume. Here someone is in front of you, presumably fixing the costume. An icon appears next to you prompting you to click it, and if you do, you lunge at the person before stopping. You can keep clicking the button to hold yourself back, but ultimately fails and you jump at the person before the minigame cuts to black. Now with these two minigames, I wanted to showcase the different children and I wanted to continue to support the theme and idea that these are just kids. Kids who are confused and scared as to why they're in a mascot Fredbear suit. A kid who is essentially forced to attack an employee but doesn't want to, as you can try to stop it and hesitate, but ultimately you can as you end up attacking the employee anyways. These aren't monstrous mascots that want to hurt people, but instead are innocent children who are not only scared and confused, but they don't know what to do or who they are. A final minigame I want to showcase is by finding a golden Freddy plushie, one that can only be found on night 6 by Mike and one that is hidden extremely well. After finding it and after clicking it, you'll immediately be put into a suit. You look around the suit and find a dim light next to you. Text appears at the bottom with one simple question: who are you? The screen glitches out and the minigame ends. With this segment, I wanted to show that one of the children in one of the Fredbear suits isn't alone, but who is with them, when did this all occur, and how is something that will of course remain a mystery. But for now, for one final Easter egg inside of Jeremy's room, on night 5 if you stay long enough near the front gates, they will actually open once more. So walking through them and into the darkness, you will simply find a Spring Bunny toy on the ground to be collected. Grabbing it, the night will reset and it will then appear in your room. Clicking on Spring Bunny, you'll be met with this secret film. That's right, the spring lock failure moment will also be in my reboot and in FNAF Singing Land. Now at first glance it might seem very similar to what we actually got in FNAF 3, and in a sense of course it is. Originally I had plans of making it different or changing aspects of who it was, but ultimately this is a moment that I personally think shouldn't be changed. But in my head I still envision it to be different. And depending on how this video performs, I will make a FNAF 3 reboot video where I go over more in depth on this moment and how it fits with the story. As I promised, it's not just a one-to-one copy of the original moment. But finally, let's look at bonus content for Five Nights at Freddy's Singing Land. Like Fall Fest, there are a total of 3 different stars to unlock. Completing nights 1 through 5 will unlock the first star, and completing night 6 will unlock the second one. But what about the third and final star? Well, there will be 2 additional game modes, with the first being a custom night. The 12 animatronics have a difficulty level of 1 through 20, so setting all the animatronics to 20, you are faced with the task of completing a 12-20 mode. There aren't any levels or mechanics here besides the mascots walking freely in Singing Land, so run away away from all of them and survive until the clock reaches 6 AM. Now, there is technically a third ending, but the game could work without it. Here we find a pink slip of termination written to Mike. It's from Golden Hour Carnival Co., urging Mike to never return or to make contact with any products related to Golden Hour Carnival Co. This will also unlock the third star, finally completing the game. There is one final optional night that isn't a 7th or 8th night, it's simply a bonus night. Here all animatronics are active and set to their maximum difficulty. The goal here is to simply survive as long as possible. There's no limit and the night doesn't end until you are jump scared, so survive as long as you can and your time will be displayed on the menu screen. I also really like the idea of having a leaderboard among all players, so you can see your time and the highest times of different players. The player who does have the highest time will actually have a 4th star displayed on the menu screen just for an extra reward. Like later FNAF games, I also like the idea of having an extras menu, where you can see the models of each animatronic, how they were created, a wide shot of the entire map, and more. In Jeremy's room, by clicking on different posters or the cardboard cutout of Fredbear in the corner, you can rewatch promotional videos of Singing Land, and you can also re-listen to all of Amara's messages. But now for some clarification, I've always wanted a Fredbear's Family Diner game, and Singing Land is just one of many ways to do it. It's also a way of separating it from Fall Fest by having the main location and animatronics be drastically different. I also hope the stories become more clear, as with the first game it's supposed to be vague for a reason. Like FNAF 1, we didn't have all the pieces yet. It wasn't until later games that we could begin to build a story and narrative, so the same would occur with my reboot. So of course with Five Nights at Freddy's Fall Fest we can't build a story yet, but with Singing Land we can start to. We learn more about Golden Hour Carnival Co., the mascots, the children stuffed inside of them, and why the mascots from Fall Fest changed. It's also a way of setting things up if needed, like the mysterious man, the Springlock incident, another soul in one of the Fredbears, and more. So please make sure to comment down below any thoughts, as I love reading through the comments. So I want to give a special thanks to these very talented people up on the screen, as I used their models for different mascot animatronics to help create this idea. These mascots were exactly what I had in mind and they were perfect for the video, so make sure to check out all their social medias and to show them all support. Again, another thanks to Unweathered Truth for inspiring this video, and if you haven't yet, make sure to check out his FNAF 1 reboot video. Also, please make sure to comment down any video recommendations down in the comment section. I always enjoy reading through the comments, and I always want to know what you guys want more from this channel. So whether that be another reboot video, a specific theory or a game that you want me to cover, or anything related to the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, make sure to comment it down below. If it's something I end up making a video on, I'll make sure to give you complete credit in that video, so you have a chance of being featured in any of my upcoming videos. So what do you guys want to see more from this channel? So with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed my take on a FNAF reboot, Five Nights at Freddy's Fall Fest. So what do you guys think? Make sure to comment down below any thoughts or how you would reboot the franchise, and how exactly would it look like? Where would you start? What characters and why? So make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you guys so much for watching.